Hello everyone, it's Fu here, and today I'm going to talk to you all about Galarian Stunfisk. When I first heard about this Pokemon, I was actually really excited because I really like Stunfisk. I have an affinity for the derpiest, goofiest looking Pokemon, and Stunfisk definitely fills that category. So I had high hopes for Galarian Stunfisk, and I think the design does not disappoint. This thing is amazing. A bear trap kind of Pokemon that disguises itself. I love that idea. I love how you encounter it in game 2. I think it's really cool, and in Pokemon Camp it's just so adorable the way it flops around. And I also found out about its typing, which is Steel Ground type, and that is amazing typing, especially for a bulky Pokemon that this thing was looking like it would be if it kept some of Stunfisk's stats. And on top of all of that, it gets a signature ability which can change its type. Type changing abilities are generally amazing. If you look at things like Protean, that's such a good ability. So I had really high hopes for Galarian Stunfisk, but alas, it really didn't live up to that. It's got some really disappointing features that just make me not want to use it, which is so annoying because for me, this design is everything I want in a Pokemon. It's ridiculous, over the top, but also adorable and goofy, and I just want it on my team, but I feel really hard to justify using it. And I'll go into that in a minute, but first, let's just talk about how you get Galarian Stunfisk. And it's pretty easy. It's there in Galar Mine number 2. Pretty hard to miss. It's a trap, and traps are meant to be quite hard to spot, but these things are kind of obvious there. But I think that they're introduced in a really cool way, the way they snap at you and then attack you. They're actually a really high level for your team when you first encounter them and can be a kind of hard battle, but I think that they're really cool, and you probably didn't miss it. It comes with its ability Mimicry, which is its only ability, so you don't need to find a hidden ability anywhere. This is its only ability, and you can get it straight away in Galar Mine 2, so that's pretty neat. So why am I disappointed about this Pokemon? I mean, its stats definitely don't disappoint because they are pretty much cut and paste from Stunfisk, but its physical and special attack are swapped, and its physical and special defense are swapped. It means it's still a really bulky Pokemon, but just hits on the physical side rather than the special side. And that is where the issue comes, because this thing, though it does get Earthquake, which is a great physical ground type move, and you can do a lot of damage with that, loads of Pokemon are immune to that, loads of Pokemon resist it, so you need some other coverage. And its other stab type in Steel, it has no good physical Steel moves. The best one it gets is Metal Claw, which has a very low base power. So that sucks so much, especially when we've got so many TMs. We've got things like Heavy Slam. This thing isn't very heavy, so it wouldn't hit very hard with that. We do have Smart Strike, and I mean, this thing doesn't look too smart, so I guess that it shouldn't get that. But it doesn't get Iron Head either, and I mean, this fish looks like it's 95% head, so I'm pretty disappointed about that. It leaves me feeling a little bit flat. That's one of my main complaints about this Pokemon. With these stats and this typing, it would be a great counter to Fairy types, switching in on them with ease, taking barely any damage, and then threatening them with Steel type coverage, but it doesn't get any, and that is huge for this Pokemon, and one of the reasons why I find it really hard to justify putting it on my team. So that sucks so badly. If this got Iron Head, just Iron Head and Earthquake is all the coverage you need on a utility set. The rest of your moves can be utility moves, setup moves, whatever you want, but it just doesn't get it, and it really frustrates me. It's unreasonable. The other reason that I'm frustrated is its signature ability. Now, I love crazy mechanics, and this is a new one that's introduced, and it has so much potential. What this ability does is it changes Galarian Stunfisk's type depending on the terrain. So that's electric terrain, psychic terrain, grassy terrain, and misty terrain. You go into electric type, psychic type, grass type, or fairy type, respectively. So there are 4 different types you can turn into. For me, I think this is a bit weird because Steel Ground typing is amazing defensive typing, so I don't really get why you'd want to change your typing in the first place, unless you had like really good coverage moves of those different types, which Galarian Stunfisk really doesn't. The only move that it gets of any of those types is Snap Trap, which is a grass type move with low base power. It's like Wrap, but grass type, so it traps the opponent in and does damage over time. It's a good move for Galarian Stunfisk to have because it's got the trapping utility and it does damage over time, which is nice. But it obviously won't appreciate getting like the grass typing to get stab on that attack because it's so low base power anyway, so that's not great. And in terms of electric, psychic and fairy typing, it doesn't get any offensive moves of any of those types, so it doesn't benefit at all from them. I guess you could argue that it might benefit from the secondary effects, like grassy terrain giving it healing definitely could help, but you don't need to be a grass type for that to work. The other thing is that this Pokemon doesn't even get any terrain moves. It can't set up terrain itself, and that's even more ridiculous considering that the terrain moves were made TMs this generation. Like, there's no reason for this Pokemon not to learn the terrain moves given that its ability is all about terrains. Like, why is this a thing? It really frustrates me, unreasonably so. There is another way to set up terrains in this game, and that is through Dynamaxing. So if you Dynamax your Galarian Stunfisk and go for an electric, psychic, grass or fairy type move, then you can set up the terrain that way. But as we already established, the only move that it has of any of these types is Snap Trap, which will be able to set up grassy terrain if it Dynamaxes. But firstly, I don't really know why you would be Dynamaxing your Galarian Stunfisk, because it's not the best Pokemon to be using max moves anyway. And secondly, it doesn't make sense to do that because you don't really want to change your typing and you have no follow-up moves to capitalize on the grassy terrain. So really the only way that you can get Mimicry to work is to pair up Galarian Stunfisk with something else that sets up terrains. And there are some Pokemon with the Surge abilities that can set up terrain just by switching in. The examples of the released ones are Galarian Weezing, which can set up Misty Surge, Indeedee, which can set up Psychic Terrain, and also Pinchurchin, which can set up Electric Terrain, respectively. But the thing is, having to run those Pokemon that can set up these terrains mean that you've kind of got type redundancy when you switch in Galarian Stunfisk, because you've got an electric type setting up electric terrain, and then you switch in Galarian Stunfisk and turn into another electric type. And on teams, you kind of want different types to have better synergy so that they can check different things on the opponent's team. You don't just want a team of entirely the same type of Pokemon, because then you're just going to get swept by the thing that they're weak against. So this really isn't the best way to use Mimicry either. I just don't understand why it's got Mimicry. What does it give it? It doesn't give it anything. If anything, I think it gives it a weakness because the opponent can actually use Mimicry better than Galarian Stunfisk can. If they set up a terrain and Galarian Stunfisk turns into something that it doesn't want to turn into, and they can actually abuse that. So all in all, Mimicry is like a massive disappointment. I can see some Pokemon that would be able to use this really well. If something that wasn't a psychic type got like psychic terrain and then a psychic move, that would be a really cool way to like set up and like change your typing, and you can control it. The opponent can't then go for priority moves. It just would be really interesting to have a Pokemon that could abuse this, but Galarian Stunfisk can't. So those are the two reasons why I just am so disappointed by Galarian Stunfisk. I want it to be good. I love the design. I love it in Pokemon Camp. And I think that it's got so much potential here, but not having a steel type move, meaning that it can't even really check fairies, which is meant to have a type advantage against, and its ability that doesn't do anything for it, that just means that I'm really upset about it. I'm really upset, unreasonably so. This is a Pokemon game and I'm mad at it. I'm mad at this Galarian Stunfisk. On a lighter note, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, this thing does have a good typing, it does have good stats, and it gets access to Stealth Rock. So at the very least, you can use it as a Stealth Rocker. It gets Thunder Wave, so it's a non-attacking electric type move, but that can be used to paralyze opponents as a good utility move. And then I guess you can run Earthquake, which will hit relatively hard, and then the last move can either be Rock Slide for good coverage or Sucker Punch to catch the opponent off guard. But that's really all I can think of using Galarian Stunfisk for. Otherwise, you're better using a different Steel Ground type like Steelix or Excadrill that can actually do some damage. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on Galarian Stunfisk and if there is any way that Mimicry can actually be good. If you like this kind of Sword and Shield content, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more. But that's all from me today. I've been Fu, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye!